Welcome to the Communities of Character podcast, the show that shares rich conversation about character development across different vocations and callings. I'm Jennifer Hogan, and today we're continuing our series on the 11 Principles Framework from character.org. Today's guest is Dr. Quentin Lee, and he's also called the Can't Touch This Principle for his wildly viral video that he created for his students at Childersburg High School as they were coming back to school in the fall of 2020. Last summer, in June of 2021, Quentin was named superintendent of Talladega City Schools in Alabama. He's married to Dr. Anita Lee, and they have 3 wonderful children. Now it's time to get some deeper insights from our expert guest for this episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of the Communities of Character podcast, a place where you can learn about all things character. I'm your host, Jennifer Hogan, and we're continuing our conversation about the 11 Principles Framework from character.org. This episode, we'll be talking about Principle 1 of the framework, which is all about defining and implementing and embedding core values into school culture. And today's guest, Superintendent Dr. Quentin Lee, has a lot to share about Principle 1. Welcome, Dr. Lee.
Hey, I am so glad to be on this podcast today with you and just sharing this space and time.
Absolutely. Well, I am thrilled to have you on as our guest here on the podcast. And before we jump into talking about core values, there may be some listeners who recognized your name and realize that you are the Can't Touch This Principle.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Could you share a little bit with our listeners about a video that you did that went viral?
Oh my gosh, that was such an amazing time. Every year I try to do videos to really bring the students in. And with going back to school, everything has been just so up in the air. I wanted to do a video that really caught their attention and talked about the safety protocol that we had to do regarding COVID-19. So I came up with this video to MC Hammer's Can't Touch This, and it was about things you couldn't touch based upon COVID-19. And let me just tell you, it was one of those things that a genius just happened. It took me about 35 minutes to write the lyrics to the song and to record it. I remember being at home just up on my laptop, my school laptop, like literally just in the floor, just having fun, creating and laughing. And I recorded the song and I let my wife hear it. She started laughing. So that was a great sign that it was going to be something funny. And I let some friends hear it, and they was like, "You need help. There's something wrong with you." And I got a chance to call one of my favorite videographers, Jalen Mitchell. And he had shot some videos for us during school and did some work. So I called him, and he was so excited that we got together and recorded the video with some students, and it went international.
Yeah.
I was able to be in so many different platforms. I think one day, I had 7 interviews in one day, 7 television interviews. And if you know me, you know I like clothes. So that was 7 different outfit changes because you can't be on TV in more than one outfit. But, on the same outfit, but I had such an amazing time and was able to trend a lot with educators and hopefully be a voice for education in our nation during such a crazy time. We were dealing with COVID-19 and just all the social injustice that was going on. So the video allowed people just to sit back and laugh and enjoy a moment and just to breathe and just realize that, let's just have some fun. And the people that I was able to meet, like being able to be on TV with Anderson Cooper and Lester Hoda, and ultimately Cedric the Entertainer and MC Hammer, it was awesome. And I will always cherish that moment, and definitely one of the highlights of my career.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we'll be sure to link that video in our show notes for all of our listeners in case there is somebody out there who hasn't seen it. And I think last time I checked, there were like almost 7 million people who had viewed that video. Almost
7 million views on my page, but Good Morning America has, they've linked the video to their page. There's a lot of people that have linked it, Inside Edition, just all the different venues that actually put the video out there. So altogether, it's close to 10 million views worldwide.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Well, since then, you've moved on from the principal position at Childersburg High School, which is in Talladega County Schools, to where you are now the superintendent of Talladega City Schools. And your job is tough right now with all that's going on with the pandemic. And I may have you back as a guest in the future to talk about core values from a superintendent's perspective compared to a building principal. But today, we're going to talk about your days at Childersburg High School, because your school was named the 2021 State School of Character by character.org. And could you share with us, what did that mean to you as the building principal when you received word that the school had received that honor?
Well, it was an emotional time. We were extremely excited because culture was the number one thing that we promoted. We rewrote our vision and we wrote our mission, and it wasn't about high test scores and kids that just do everything right. It was
Mhm.
really to restart our culture, and we wanted every single student on our campus to be supported. And so, a lot of times when you do character education work, there is not an immediate release of gratification. Like,
Mhm.
it takes months, sometimes even years for you to see any of the results of your hard work. So we were working extremely hard, and I remember the year before we put in an application and we were recognized as honorable mention,
Mhm.
and we were encouraged to him like, oh wow, we are doing something and it's right, and we just got to change some things, and we changed some things and was able to get that honor. So it was very great, especially being at a school that had oftentimes didn't have the best perception, but our kids bought in, our community bought in, our administration from top down, everyone bought into what we were doing at Childersburg High School, and it really changed the culture of our school. And so being named that honor, it was amazing, and it was something I got to share with the students and the faculty.
Well, it is an incredible honor that your school earned. There were only 3 schools in Alabama that were
Mhm.
named as state schools of character in 2021, and we're just so proud of your students and staff for achieving that recognition. Would you share with our listeners how you got involved in character education?
Absolutely. I got involved with character education. It's always been my heart. It's
Yeah.
always been my heart really to work on kids, because I understand that we talk about our at-risk programs, but school is an at-risk program all in itself and how you do it. And so by being a principal that really wanted to promote high character, I started off with some principals from Ron Clark. I went to the Ron Clark Academy and did some training there, and I brought it back to the school I was at, and that was at Talladega County Central High School. And we were really just working on character. And
Mhm.
we noticed that as we improved the character, our discipline numbers went down and our academics increased significantly. In many of the categories, we went from the bottom to the top in our area and our district. So we're really excited just to see how character was playing such a positive impact on our students. So when I went to Childersburg, we had the opportunity to join the Hope Institute,
Mhm.
and it was life changing. We went there thinking that we were working on one thing, and through just the conversations, and I love it because it's not a cookie cutter approach, but just the
Mhm.
conversations of what's going on our campus, we realized that the issue that we needed to fix first was the adults, not the kids.
Gotcha.
And that took some time, some honest conversations. And as we did that, we got buy-in, and it was just an amazing experience. And I was able to switch out and take another group to the Hope Institute. So we actually trained at least 8 of our teachers along with the administrators. And it was definitely something that I'm very proud of and evidenced by the culture shift that we had at the school.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, today we're going to focus on principle one of the
Mhm.
11 principles framework, which has to do with core values. But before we do that, could you tell us how the 11 principles framework served you and your school community in your work around character education?
Well, definitely. It gave us a framework. When you talk about character education, you can do things that just quote unquote feel good,
Hmm.
but the framework actually supports it in all facets. And even with instruction, if you're going to be a school of character, a district of character, or just really focus on education, it has to be embedded in your instruction. So with those principles, we were able to take the principles, and what I love about them, let me just say this, is that it's
Hmm.
not the cookie cutter approach, and you can make it whatever it needs to look like for your campus.
Hmm.
And it looks what we did at Childersburg may look different for many of the listening audiences, but the number one thing is you've got to be committed to kids. And at
Yeah.
that time, that was our hashtag committed. And we were committed to changing the culture, and we did whatever it took. So with those 11 principles, it was just an opportunity to really shape our work and define it. And we realized we were getting ready to go through STEM certification during the same time, and a lot of the principles and a lot of activities were overlapping, and that's when we realized that we really were embedding character into our educational process.
Wow. Well, we always want our listeners to walk away with practical ideas that they're able to use or adapt for their schools and situations. And
Mhm.
so, in alignment with that goal, would you share the process that your school used in the selection of its core values?
All right, so we just started from the bottom. We looked at our current mission and vision. I was a principal, and I now am a superintendent that believes that your vision and your mission should change every couple of years.
Okay.
Once you achieve your vision and your mission, it's time to create new vision, new mission, and make sure that you're meeting the students. For example, one of our missions was that we would create a nationally recognized school.
Okay.
Well, we received national recognition with the awards, so it was time to go back to the drawing board and let's figure out something else. We've done that. We can't continue to wallow in what we've done and live in the past.
Hmm.
But we had to take a real deep dive and ask ourselves, what does that look like? If our mission is to help students, well, what does helping students look like in our school?
Hmm.
And so I would encourage all leaders, what does your vision look like? Like, we can read it, we can hear about it, but what does it look like? And what is the physical evidence of your vision and your mission? Because it has to be aligned with what you're doing inside your classrooms and with inside of your school building. So once we got together and had those strong conversations, and everyone, I mean, we talked about it, and we were okay with changing. You have to be okay with change. Change is the number one thing that people always talk about wanting, but nobody wants to do.
Yeah.
But we had to be willing to change and be willing to accept that these are some things that we can do differently. And we got complete buy-in, and it was just phenomenal. The student response, I could just remember the first year, before I got there, they were averaging over 600 referrals. And within 1 year, we cut that in half and only had 302, I believe it was, that
That's
first year
amazing.
of incorporating character. And it wasn't perfect the first year. It was
Yeah.
not perfect at all. It was a lot of, hey guys, let's do this, let's try. And you have to adapt to what your students need and what your faculty is saying. And if there are things, there's suggestions that are being presented, look at those suggestions and give the person a credible response as far as, hey, I'll look into this, because it could be something to help make it better. And I was not just this phenomenal leader. I had a team of people that rallied around me, and they supported the vision of doing everything we could for kids. And that's how we got to where we got. So I definitely say the number one thing is just being able to go on that journey with people. Just don't get out there by yourself. Take everyone on the journey with you. And as you have all are championing the work, ultimately the students win.
That's great advice. Great advice. And it's one thing to select core values, but it's another to make them central to every decision and action.
Mhm.
And how did those core values become so strongly embedded? I mean, I hear you say that you had those conversations and did the deep dive, but how did you take those steps to make those core values so strongly embedded in your school culture?
Well, I mean, it's just it's simple, but it's not simple. It has to drive every decision that you have. So every decision that the school makes has to be to better the lives of the boys and girls that walk through the halls. That's the bottom line. And in schools, we can't make decisions for convenience. We can't make decisions because it's unpopular. We've got to do what's best for the boys and girls. And sometimes those decisions may be a little harsh. Maybe we may not understand them, but as long as we keep them up front, and that's the boys and girls that walk through our hall, we'll definitely be in a great place. But we just looked at what we were doing, and is this something that I would like for my personal children school to do, and how are we supporting education, and how are we getting close to our goal of creating this culture of learning. And a lot of schools like to throw in their mission statement, lifelong learners.
Hmm.
Well, you can't be a lifelong learner if you hate school.
Yeah.
So by becoming a lifelong learner, you've got to present those opportunities so that you can ensure that learning takes place after school. And we saw that our attendance numbers, we were averaging like 95% attendance and above at a high school. And we were like, whoa. Now, tardies was another thing. Now, they
Yeah.
didn't want to get on time. But just to be able to have the shift in attendance was huge, because that meant kids wanted to be there because it was a place where they belonged. And that just continued to change the culture over time as you continue to make those decisions. And as a leader, you've got to make sure that everyone that's on your immediate team's on board, and that trickles down. So in those classrooms where teachers are emphasizing and really going forth with the character education, you'll see a deeper connection with the students and the instruction. And that's what we really want in our schools.
I love that, and it's really affirming to you and your leadership to have those teachers on board so that it can trickle down and carry into all those classrooms.
Absolutely.
Right now, with the struggles of overwhelm during the pandemic, how do you support teachers and educators in ways that align with your personal and your school or school district's core values?
All right, so that was the overwhelmed was a word that I almost wanted to ban at the
Yeah,
beginning
I
of
hear
this
you.
year. But when you think about it, that was the perfect word to describe everything that was going on. The uncertainty of COVID-19.
Mhm.
We're getting different guidance almost every other week, it seems, and you never know, and everyone's been exposed. It's a lot to process. But what we did, we just actually have been really intentional about the conversations, the professional development that we offer. And as a new superintendent, switching back to superintendent roles, a new
Yeah,
superintendent
sure.
going in, there's a lot of things that I wanted to do, a lot of programs that I knew would work. Very wise and say, hey, this is enough for right now. Let's pause on this, allow them to get used to everything that's in place, and then we can add this later. Sometimes I think that leaders have to realize that as you're making these decisions, it affects you indirectly, but it affects those under you directly. And getting that feedback from them, it's a whole lot easier to have people to be on this journey with you instead of being drugged because they don't want to go because they don't see the importance. So just having those conversations, helping build leadership amongst our teachers and our staffs by the committees has been really huge in helping shape the culture. And just past weekend, we were taking our diagnostic test. I go through diagnostic data and emailed all the teachers that had over 60% of growth in their classrooms to let them know that I'm proud of them. And that lets their kids know, hey, the superintendent's looking at my work. And as a principal, you've got to be able to have your hand and your thumb on the data at your school. And so much that you know if a kid doesn't perform, why that kid didn't perform. Was it because of test anxiety? Was it because they didn't get a good night's sleep before? Like have those conversations. And if your school is large and you can't do that, have people in place that can have those relationships with those kids. Because data drives instruction, but guess what? Relationships move schools. And the work of character education is built upon relationships. And that's that positive relationship between students and those faculty members. And it's not restricted to just teachers. It could be your custodian, it can be your bus driver. Any adult that's on campus in the capacity to serve students has an opportunity to build a relationship with our students.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because everybody on campus that has an interaction with a student, whether it be a bus driver, someone in the lunchroom, the librarian, the front office person, everyone has an opportunity to positively impact a student. And it's going to
Absolutely.
take everybody, to be on board with the mission and the vision of that school. So I appreciate you recognizing that and sharing that. Getting back to principle one and core values as a takeaway, what main piece of advice would you give to someone who's wanting to start with principle one in their school?
Take the first step. And when you take that first step, go ahead and jump all in, because once you start this work, it will change your life. It will change how you look at education, and it will change the impact that you have on the students. It is scary at times, because there will be people that think, well, you're worried about character education. What about the instruction? And all this plays hand in hand. Years from now, our kids will realize how school made them feel. I can tell you that I know how to read, but I don't know how I learned to read. But I
Hmm.
just know that in kindergarten, I had a teacher that I think the world of, and I stay in communication with my kindergarten teacher even now. And it wasn't about, well, she was a rock star teacher. Let me just put that out there. Shouts out to her. But I remember how she made me feel as a kindergartner who was insecure, because at that time I used to suck on my fingers. And she allowed me different opportunities so I wouldn't be embarrassed, and she supported me. And I think that she really was the first person that really put in my mind, hey, I can be an educator, even though I strayed away from my calling, I guess you could say, growing up. And then music brought me back to what I'm doing now, and I absolutely love. But getting into this work, it causes you to challenge everything that you think and how it affects the boys and girls. And it gives you a different perspective. And it's a refreshing perspective that can ultimately help save the lives of our kids.
Well, that's powerful. And I know our listeners have enjoyed learning more about you and your school story today. And as we wrap up today's interview, do you have a podcast or a book recommendation that you have found to be impactful on your character education journey?
Well, the first book is the Bible. You've got to read the Bible. And it gives practical wisdom into what we're doing and encouragement, and it just speaks in different ways. And there's so many different books that I am just taking things from, but the main thing is just being a leader. I'm like, I'm sitting here wrapping my brain now, like, where are my books? And then I realized that when people come to my office, I give the books away.
Yeah,
So they get them.
you share them.
Share them, yes. But there's a book that I read, and it's a elementary book, and it's about, I think it's actually entitled Seven Blind Mice,
Okay.
and it is a great story about perception. And
Okay.
as we do the work in education, it's all about perception. People don't perceive things to be the way that we oftentimes see it as an educator. We know that there's certain things that have to occur, and maybe the public, our parents, they don't understand that. But every mice or every blind mice in this situation perceive this object to be something different. And then it took one person to actually allow them to use pieces of what they were seeing to see the bigger picture. So with character education, we've got to be like those blind mice, but we've got to lead them and put all the pieces together, because there's no one stop approach to character education. It may be work
Yeah.
days that it works really well, and maybe days that you think, oh my gosh, what did we get into? But just keep fighting on and realize, look at those team that you're building, those that are around you, and rely on their strength.
That's wonderful. And I'll be sure to link that book in the show notes I'm sure our listeners will probably want to check that out. And
Oh, and
um,
it's a simple, easy read. I mean, it is like really a pretty book. So
Great, great. Well, our listeners may want to reach out to you for more information about what we talked about today. What are
Mhm.
the best ways for our listeners to engage with you on social media?
All right. Well, I'm on social media on all platforms. I'm at Dr. Quentin J. Lee, and that's Quentin. You can also find me on www.drquentinjlee.com. I have offered my information out there, or you can find me in the halls of my school system here at Talladega City Schools.
Perfect. Well, I'll be sure to put those links there too. And I just thank you so much for being here today, Quentin. I want to give a big shout out to you and the work you've been doing and will continue to lead in the area of building cultures of character in schools. And thank you to all of our listeners who have stayed with us all the way through. I appreciate you so much. I hope you take away some valuable information and apply it in your schools or organizations. And be sure to check out the show notes for links to what was discussed in this episode. And please show some love for us by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening. Thank you again, Quentin. Everybody, take care.